NBC News on KCAA Loma Linda is sponsored by Teamsters Local 1932, protecting the future of working families. Teamsters1932.org.
Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Justice Watch with Attorney Zulu Ali. I am Attorney Zulu Ali with the Justice Watch crew, Rosa Nunez, Michael Bilal Clark, Dr. Akil Bashir, Andrea Rodeman, and Ryan Rhodes. This week, like every week, we'll be discussing critical legal and social justice issues that are impacting our community. This week, we have a couple of topics. One of them has to do with single motherhood, and the other one has to do with the recent shooting of former President Donald Trump. So, for those who may have not heard this, yesterday during a rally, former President Donald Trump was the victim of an assassination attempt. We'll talk about the details of what happened. The details. However, just in summary, there was allegedly a single shooter, a young man that's been later identified as, what was his name? Do you recall? I know he's 20 years old. Who? Crooks? Okay. He was on top of a building that was about 35 feet away, allegedly, with a fully automatic weapon, if I'm not mistaken. And he basically, the gunman shot former President Donald Trump in the ear. That appeared to have been a non-fatal shooting. Right. I hadn't prepared for this subject, but I have a little bit to say, and I think we have to talk about this. Well, the first thing is I'm a little bit confused, right? And the reason why I'm confused is because I had, during the time of former Vice President Al Gore, when he was on the political scene, I was involved in the preparation of him arriving at Vanderbilt University to speak. Now, I have firsthand knowledge of what really happens before someone like that comes and speaks at in a public forum. Now, when you think about the Secret Service, and I know that you see a couple of guys standing around the president, it really doesn't work like that. It's like a lot of people. And they brought a whole lot of people, and they basically cleared everything. Everything, I mean, within miles of radiuses, right? Checking buildings, top of buildings, and this was, you got to imagine that it's way more advanced today than it was back then, right? So, the fact that you have a 20-year-old kid that was able to get on top of a building, they said that he was basically, well, they described it, but basically what he was doing apparently was low crawling to a position. Before he ever shot, a shot was fired, a witness or a person watching the incident gets up and shouts, and not a person, but several people shout, there's a shooter, right? Now, all the civilians see it, at least several civilians see it, but the Secret Service don't see it, right? Even though they had other people on top of the building. Then he gets shot. There's I believe 8 shots, and the one that hit former President Trump hit him in the ear. Well, I thought that was kind of odd because if you're facing someone, I could see how you could get hit in the ear. Right. But he got shot in the ear from the shooter apparently was from the right side. But later on, someone was telling me that he was talking about immigration and there was a PowerPoint or a video or something up. So he turned his head towards the individual, right? And he got shot in the ear, right? So I said, well, that sounds kind of maybe makes sense. But then I started thinking about more and the caliber of weapon, a very high caliber weapon, right? And so when you have a powerful weapon like that, typically, even if you just get hit in the ear, that type of weapon is just going to be so powerful that you're just, grazing your ear with that type of weapon, he probably wouldn't have an ear.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Of course, if they would have hit him to the side, it would have blown parts of his head off just because of the caliber. So it's not necessarily the weapon you being shot, but the caliber of the weapon is huge. Because it's just like imagine getting, and I'm just using this as an example. Imagine someone shooting you in the ear with a shotgun, right? If someone shoots you in the ear with a shotgun, then you
have no head.
Right.
Exactly.
So I was confused about that. So also the fact that you have the Secret Service, you have all this, and then the way in which they covered him. The last time, and I said this to a friend, when I remember seeing when Ronald Reagan was shot and the manner in which they laid on him and the way they covered him.
Yeah.
You would not see his head would have never been visible. So once a president has gotten shot, the fact that they allowed, so he's walking and they're doing, they're just like putting his hand up. You wouldn't see. It would have been from the time that he got shot to the time that he was escorted off the stage. You would have never seen him.
You would have never seen him.
They would have. You know what I'm saying? Because you're really messing up. Because dudes that cover that bodyguards for entertainers, right? They do. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? That makes absolutely no sense.
Correct.
But they let him put his head up and give a sign. That makes no sense to me.
It doesn't.
Right? So I have two theories, right? Just say no to conspiracy theories. That's what Joe says.
Yeah.
But I have a couple of theories. Now, I was speaking with a friend of mine probably a month ago, and I told him, I said, look, I don't think that President Trump, after the debates, I said, I don't think Trump is going to win. And he says, why? And I said, because they're not going to let him win. And I was joking with him, and I said, well, I'm going to say I was joking with him. I said, even if he ends up going to the hospital and having a heart attack or whatever it is, I said the country cannot afford. We talked about that.
Yeah, we did.
Last
We talked
episode.
about it.
Yeah, I said they will not, whatever they would need to do, they cannot allow him to be the president of the United States.
Yeah.
Even if they had to do something funny. You know what I'm saying? I talked about that, right?
Yeah, you just talked. We just talked about that.
And then this happens. Some things are, he's kind of like Fredo. You remember The Godfather? I'm sure Michael loved Fredo, right? Michael loved Fredo. But Fredo had to go.
Yeah.
Because of what he was doing to the family.
Exactly.
That was his brother. It hurt him. But we can't have Fredo messing things up like that. And I think that in my, I know it sounds like conspiracy theory, but I find it hard to believe that this was an accident. I really do. Because if I have to find a couple of things. Either I'm going to have to find out, either it was intentional or we have an incompetent Secret Service agency. So you have to pick your poison.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? A 20-year-old kid gets on top of a building and gets a shot off. Because first of all, what I would have thought I would have heard, if I heard a shot, it was like, man, the Secret Service just killed somebody on top of a building. But the fact that happened, because there could have been more than one shooter.
Right.
So why would you let him get up and expose his face?
Yeah.
Because if he
Exactly.
exposed his face, then basically
Yeah.
a second shooter could have killed him.
Correct.
They hadn't cleared the scene. They hadn't cleared the area. They hadn't do anything. So they allow the former president of the United States to stand up and expose his whole body.
Whole head.
Right,
His
his
whole head.
yeah.
After you just got through got allegedly shot in the head, that makes absolutely, no,
It
you would
doesn't.
have,
That's the bullseye.
A-
The head is
absolutely.
the bullseye.
Right.
That's what any assassin is going to go for.
Right.
Right.
He's not going for anything else. It's going for the head. And for them to allow him to stick his head up and raise his fist for that period of time, and they hadn't secured the area. I heard like one of the Secret Service say, "Hey, Hawkeye is here. Hawkeye is here."
Yeah.
I have no idea what Hawkeye means, but that's what they said and allowed him to stand up.
Yeah.
That just didn't make no sense whatsoever for me.
no.
I mean, look, I know nothing about the Secret Service or anything like that, but if I'm just thinking about just the crowd and people behind him, just natural human reaction is just, okay, I hear gunshots, identify where they're coming from, and usually there's some type of like scattering or something like
Right.
that.
Yeah.
Right? But if you look at the crowd just started like,
Yeah.
and they're just like not really reacting. And I mean, like you said, just like Trump going to the ground, then being down that long
period,
and then
yeah.
getting him up, and then allowing him once again to sort of just like cheer, fight on, while they're cheering and everything. Like, it just didn't seem, like you said, it didn't really seem too professional. It didn't seem official. It didn't seem efficient. So it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, it looks like funny business, honestly.
Yeah, that's what I thought when I first saw it. I was like, this just looks like Trump business. But then I'm like, would this man really go that far? But yeah, he would. And I didn't even consider all the things you were saying, but that just makes so much sense to me.
I mean, what would he get from having this done? Is it the publicity? Is it people? You know, this is what it reminds me of, and I don't want to digress, but this is what it reminds me of. Janet Jackson on stage with Justin Timberlake.
Oh, yeah.
In order to
Bam.
sell the record, right? This is what they did. Later on, they found out this was what she did. This is a publicity stunt in order to bring her up and make her album sell.
Right.
This is what this reminds me of.
Yeah.
And it's working right now.
It's working, yeah.
I mean, like, the thing that scares me the most is just I feel like young voters in this whole situation, because what I've seen over the course of just like a day is, people talking about, Trump's his aura and like he's so tough and like he's like, we haven't had a president this strong and da 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 da. And it's like, I think that we're not gonna be fooled. But if I think about like kids for their first time voting and just like seeing all of the visuals, and like, I think I said on a previous episode that we've made politics entertainment, which is not a good thing. And this is unfortunately a very entertaining, you're making memes, you're making jokes, and we think that's not gonna help him. It's gonna help him.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, that's that's kind of the thing that one of the things that I was looking at as far as you know, the way that it was done, and like say, okay, so basically, was he doing this? Was this really a publicity stunt? Would he go this far to do it? I mean, I don't think it's a publicity stunt. Again, I think that did it seem like it was staged, and he may not have been the person. And then on the other hand, this is the other issue. The other issue is, if you ever seen somebody get shot, right? I mean, and not only that, okay, the shock of being shot, the shock of a bullet hitting your ear, right? And your response, like he got it, is like a bee was on his ear.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, that was,
He did.
yeah, like that, you know. And then, you know, then all this happens. So it's all weird. You know what I mean? You think it's adrenaline that allowed him to do that?
Could be.
You know, I guess it could be. But I don't think that it was staged from the perspective that he knew what was going to happen. But I think that somebody, you know, somebody wanted him gone, and I don't believe it was the Democratic Party. That's what I believe. I believe that, again, like we said the last time, you know, our national security is our national security.
So somebody missed the mark.
Yeah. I'm saying that I believe that we can look. We cannot have 4 years of this dude in office. It's not even an option. It's like, could you imagine a crisis of the U.S. Supreme Court hearing all of his cases? Is it immunity? Is it not immunity? You know, it would just be a disaster. And the enemy would love for him to be the president of the United States. They would love that.
Yeah.
Because it would just be nothing but constant every day. It would be like a reality show for the world. And we would be the laughingstock of the world.
Yeah.
Right? Because again, I mean, we have our, you know, you will never ever, nobody will ever look at the president of the United States the same after his administration.
Correct.
Nobody will ever look at this country the same after his administration. Say what you want, say what you will, but you know, nobody will. I mean, because it's not nothing he does is presidential.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
It's the same thing we're talking about the debate. I mean, when you look at debate and you really you think about it, if you really think about it, you think, man, how could he answer what, you know, he didn't even sound his answers to questions made no sense. It's just like he said it with conviction. Not that it made any sense, because nobody could tell you what he said that was basically, you know, like policy driven,
Right.
or things that you want. It's just that the way he said it, and you know, throwing shade and talking about Biden and you know, that sort of thing. But as far as the substance of it, it wasn't really there. You know, it was made for TV and social media, but it wasn't really there. It was more, we paid more attention to Biden's shortcomings in his delivery than we really did as to what this guy really said. And I'm just saying, I mean, I think that, you know, we have to take a look back and think about the president of the United States. And we talked about this the last time. It's a boring thing. To watch a presidential debate is a boring thing.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be boring. Presidents are supposed to be boring. Presidents are supposed to have a certain amount of the way you carry yourself, the way you do debates, being cordial. You know what I mean? Being presidential. And it will, and you can't see that anymore. It's not there anymore.
Not at all.
You know, and I think that people, you know, when you have that as that him being an example of the country around the world, it's like I told you, look, America's not that great. Look at that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, it's crazy.
Yeah. It's I don't know, man. I'm so dumbfounded when it comes to this election with just the options, period. You know, I mean, a lot of people want to sway this way and sway that way, but I'm being honest with you. The choices is not good either way.
Yeah.
And that's just in my personal opinion. You know, I mean, a lot of people want to go for Biden. A lot of people, you know, some people want to go for Trump. But me looking from the outside in, man, you know, and looking at the choices that we have and their state of mind, both of them, their state of mind. One of them is, to me, is just too irate, too caught up in himself, too egotistic, you know, and the other one is just whether or not he gonna flatline any day.
I think I think honestly, I think that we're at a point where it's not that the quality of candidates, well, the quality of candidates as it relates to Trump has changed, but in general, a Joe Biden is not as much of an anomaly. It's just that we've changed as a people as to what we expect to see and what we expect of a president. And, you know, we were very limited in the information that we had. I mean, 2, 4, and 5. There wasn't a lot of, like, Instagram, social media, Facebook.
Yeah.
You know, like the world is watching for this sport. I mean, back in the day, you know, when I was young, I didn't watch presidential debates. I'm not going to lie to you. That's not something that I was looking at. And we voted, you know, Ronald Reagan was very boring.
Yeah.
He didn't look like he was going to live a long time. You know what I'm saying? He was old, man.
Yeah.
And the way he delivered things. And there was a lot of times in the White House where he looked like, you know, we didn't see him a lot. You know, and I think the last few years of his presidency, something was going on with this dude.
Yeah.
You know, but we didn't pay attention to that. You know, nobody come out and just say, oh, he looks old. Well, you know, presidents look old.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They didn't start rock and rolling a little bit until Clinton came.
Yeah.
And then he came in and he's playing saxophones on
Yeah.
Right, on
Yeah.
the Arsenio.
on Arsenio Hall
yeah.
show and talking about he's smoking weed. That changed the game a little bit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then so we start seeing, you know, people trying to relate to younger people.
Yeah.
But it's not as much of an and then we start questioning the presidency. What are we getting out of it?
Yeah.
You know, and so the you know, so it's just a different time. People were asking questions that we didn't ask before.
Yes.
We just assumed the Democrats are for minorities, the Republicans
Yeah.
aren't. We just went with the Democratic Party, and you know, now people, because of social media, on the other hand, people are asking questions and people want more, are demanding more.
Right.
Not that they're basically, you know, giving less. We're just demanding more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the way I see it. What about it? What the young people doing?
Man, I think that once again, unfortunately, I think that younger people are starting to draw. I mean, I can't speak towards like my friends, but I'm just talking about like what I see on social media. I think that the cult of personality that is Trump is starting to win younger people over, unfortunately. I think that he sort of created this ability, and I hate to sort of say this, it's impressive, but it is. Just this following that he's been able to create by being outrageous is working. Like, you can't deny and say it's not working. And I feel like the left, Joe Biden specifically, any charisma he had in the last election is kind of gone now. And, like, he does not look interesting. Like, he really doesn't. Like, and I think that Donald Trump is being more interesting, and unfortunately, that is sort of gaining interest. Social media, like I said, memes, like YouTube, SNL this week. I'm sure, like, everything you're gonna see is going to center around that. And while we think it might not help, it's going to help him.
And that's what I was saying. I think last week or the week before last. That's what I was saying. That he's drawing a younger audience.
Yeah.
And this war in Palestine is not doing any justice towards that, you know, because a lot of people are now looking at it. They say, look, we don't want to deal with Biden. He's not hearing our cry, so we want to go elsewhere. And then you have those people that's middle-aged people who I believe at this point are so confused between whether or not they want to vote Democrat or Republican. They just want to opt out and say, hey, I'm not going to vote altogether. And then you got those olders that's stuck in their ways, which is they're going to sway whatever ways their parents have taught them over the course of the years and stuff like that. But for the most part, we know that the vote of the younger people has carried elections.
Yeah.
I don't know. What you think?
I agree with everything Bilal said and Brian said. It's unfortunate that, especially with the young kids, right? So, oh, sorry about that. With the youngsters, it's a completely different mindset, completely different. What they are expecting is completely different. They thriving off of drama. Social media drives everything. A lot of them are learning most of the stuff from TikToks, YouTubes, and different things like that. And that's what they want. And unfortunately, you know, my cousin said, she says, if they put a purple 15-footed alien on the ballot, I'm voting for him. I just want Trump not to be the president. I don't think that's how your generation is thinking. And I have a different view. I actually think he may win. I don't want to believe that, but I think we're that far gone, and those who have the most power to make that happen, I think they may win. They may do it, because a lot of our generation is saying, well, I don't want to pick either way, so I'm just not going to do it. So silence, that is voting. You're putting your vote in if you don't vote.
Correct.
So and like, what do you do? Like, I don't know what I want to do, because it's like, I don't know which way to go. Like, we're screwed either way. So flip a coin, heads or tails. You know.
Yeah.
So I really think he may accomplish his goal, and then we're all going to hell. Oh. Helicopters. We're all going in helicopters. Helicopters. I didn't finish my sentence.
He's definitely got momentum right now, though.
100%. Yeah.
He definitely does.
And that's scary.
Yeah.
That's scary to me.
Yeah, but like I say, this all of this just draws more and more attention to it, and then the fact that that fist. That fist that went up in the air, like, yeah, I'm the man.
I got it.
I got this.
It.
Yeah, I did this. I lived through this. Come on,
his face was all.
Yeah,
I said, oh,
but you know what
God.
really thrown me was, like, if you looked at, like what you were saying earlier, if you looked at the individuals that was in the backdrop, right, especially a couple of them. This one dude, he was like saying he was just looking like.
Yeah.
He didn't duck. He didn't do. I mean, with bullets flying, you would think that you would be under them bleachers.
Especially the people behind. That's why, because I was confused at one point because they did not move. You heard a lot of screaming from, you know, but you didn't see anything happening behind him. Just looking. That was weird to me.
I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you.
Let's make some bets. Let's put some money on the table.
I'm telling you, man. I mean, you have to understand that basically our national security, I mean, I think that sometimes we give the office of the president more. It's just obviously polarized and the office that gets the most attention. Mm-hmm. The president doesn't have as much power as you think he does. I'm telling you.
No, I
agree. And
agree.
this is the thing, is that basically, look, I mean, if you make enemies in the wrong place, as Tupac's mama said, everybody can be touched.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the thing. Okay, you don't get on television. We talked about the thing about John McCain last week, former Senator John McCain, and what he said about John McCain, which was terrible. Yeah. If you're supposedly a patriot. Then you get on a debate and you specifically say negative things about particular generals under your administration, and say, man, that's, they didn't become generals by, to get at a certain point in the military, it is political.
Right.
Right? Once you get that first star, everything after that is political, especially 3-star. Completely political. You get there by a reason. He knew you don't, and then you're in the military and you're around politics for decades. You don't say stuff like that in public. You do not embarrass your generals in public. You're going to pay for that. Yeah. I'm just telling you. I mean, nobody. His head's too big, man.
Yeah.
And they're not going to allow a person to become president of the United States after what happened the last time, and now he's coming back, and to have 32 felonies. I mean, that's a lot to deal with, and there's no way you can run the country with that type of. No. It's everything. Every day is a distraction. It's going to be about the court cases. They're going to be, now that they're going through with these state prosecutions, then the U.S. Supreme Court every day is going to have to deal with all his cases to make a determination, the constitutionality of this, the constitutionality of that. I mean, we can't function like that. Yeah. It's just way too much. And when I tell you that, I do believe there are conspiracies. There's no question about it. And I'm just telling you that there are forces that you, me, and you, if you become a liability to this country, you're disposable.
No, I agree. I 110% agree.
They will not allow that to happen.
Yeah.
Correct.
And if they have to get rid of you to in the interest of this government, and they think that they're patriots too, every day the government is doing things that we have no idea about.
Correct.
For sure.
Correct.
And I'm telling you that he has stepped over the line. I told you, it's Fredo.
Yeah.
It's like, I like this dude. I kind of, whatever, but we can't do that.
Yeah, and I see
it's like that bad kid. It's like, I love you. I love you, baby, but you're going to have to go.
Yeah.
You can't stay in here with all that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Correct.
And that is, that it's a problem, and I think that we have to understand that. I think that you can watch Disney and you can believe in Disney movies, but it's not Disney.
Yeah.
That's not the way we operate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, top secret means top secret for a reason.
Right.
Yeah.
And everything when you start talking about, whenever you talk about structure, there's formal and informal. And obviously he can read those reports, the intelligence reports. The intelligence reports that presidents read every day don't have everything on them.
Yeah.
Because the president don't need to know about the people we getting rid of.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? There's covert operations. They hire, the whole thing about hiring civilians to do certain things that American don't want his hands in. That happens.
Yeah.
And I'm just telling you, when you talk about the Israeli-Palestinian situation, of course he brought that up.
Yeah.
Now, he's letting them do whatever. Now,
Yeah.
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
I got it.
he
Yeah.
gonna get in there and he gonna make Israel back down.
No, not at all. Not at all. And people don't see it like that. And I agree 100% what you're saying. I'm just looking at the aftermath of all of it. He don't get there. I'm looking at the aftermath. What is the repercussions? What is America going to face in the aftermath of all of this? Because the aftermath is, okay, he don't get in office. And either way, however he doesn't get in office, what is those followers are going to do?
Yeah.
That's one of the things we have to take in consideration and look at. I mean, we know what type of individuals that follow him and what's going to come behind that. And if he do get in office, we still it's like a double-edged sword here, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he ain't gonna get in office, and I don't know what they're gonna do about them followers, but there's a problem.
I think he leans into it though. I think that if he does not get elected, I think we revisit the moment I think he revisits the moment from yesterday and says, you know what? They've been trying to do this to me. They've been trying to take me out. Right now he's still on the campaign trail, so he's not gonna come out and say, yeah, these things. Well, we don't know that. I mean, they got the Republican convention coming up. He might lean into it, but I think that if he does not get elected, I think that he, like what I was saying, I think that he leans into it more, and we might get a repeat. I think in multiple different places. I don't want to predict that and say that. I don't want that to happen, but I feel like this time around, it just feels bigger, and it feels like he has more of a command on things. And I feel like after all of the crimes and everything like that, I think this time he could truly say, you know what, this presidency thing is not going to happen for me again. I'm going to go full in on commanding these patriots.
And so therefore, if you don't want that happen, then the voice has to be silenced.
Right. Which is what you're alluding to possibly trying to happen last night.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, man. I mean, that's, whatever it takes, because I mean, the problem is I think that, it's almost like, let's just say, and this is just an example of the way things really work. Let's say tomorrow we go into a depression, right? When did you think the government knew we was going into a depression?
I ain't been through that.
2-3 years
Yeah,
ago.
A long time ago.
A long time ago, yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So, in other words, there's all kinds of things that, there's all kinds of capital that we need as a country, and as we talked about before, moral capital is huge, and with this president we have zero, and I'm just telling you, we got a lot going on, man. I mean, as a country also, I mean, on the other hand, and this kind of falls into the lap of the people who will probably be more like Trump followers, is that we are pretty weak. I mean, there's not a whole lot of people that you're going to be in a foxhole with nowadays. It's a different type of standard of, whatever we're weakened in a lot of ways. And I think that people also concerned with, it's I guess the idea that if someone who is more liberal becomes the president of the United States, we're just such a weak country and our morality is so weak.
Yeah.
But the reality of it is that it's kind of like a false ideology or a false idea, because either way there's a moral issue
Yeah.
with both presidents. One being this way where we ain't tough like we used to be.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. We need to toughen up a little bit. That's where we get into that whole idea about single mothers,
Yeah.
strong single mothers. The reason I was thinking about talking about that, and we'll get back to Trump because I know people want to hear, but the reason why, which kind of backs into the same thing, was that I was looking at the LeBron James situation. I was reading about LeBron, and one of the things that they were talking about was the fact that LeBron, the fact of his success is in basketball, his success as a father, his success as a husband, his success as a philanthropist, as his success in bringing things back to the community. And, the missing piece is the fact that he was raised by a single mother. Mm-hmm. And then you have the same situation going on with, I on our collage, I put Deion Sanders and I put Samuel L. Jackson, who were also very successful individuals who were raised by, single mothers. Mm-hmm. And, we never speak of the fact, that's significant to me. You know what I mean? Because her face needs to be all over his success, because he came from a huge disadvantage, and it's not an anomaly for someone to be raised in a single parent household nowadays. That's not unusual. Mm-hmm. We have, depends on what you look at. I mean, the divorce rate is anywhere from 65 to 80%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a lot. Not saying that just because there's a divorce that the father can't be in the child's life. I'm not saying that, but oftentimes that's the result of it.
Yeah.
And there's one thing that obviously, well, not obviously, is this an exception or is it the rule? These strong mothers raising strong men, is that an exception? Or is it the rule? You understand the question?
Rephrase it a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, someone like LeBron James having being, raised by a strong mother and having a successful child, specifically a son, is he just an anomaly? Is that like, generally a single young man is going to suffer by being raised by a single mother?
I don't know.
Don't be.
I can't go either
Don't
way.
be scared.
Yeah, it can go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like specifically with LeBron, I think LeBron is an anomaly as a human being. I think that God created him to play basketball. He's 6'8", 250 pounds, and moves like he's 5'10". I think that in that specific situation, as far as like his success in basketball, I think that was just going to happen. But I do think that, clearly he talks about his mom. He talks about like, all the sacrifices she made for him to make, go to different practices and go play at a Catholic school across, the other side of town to, play on a team that could potentially elevate, his circumstances. So I think that specifically LeBron James, Deion Sanders, Samuel L. Jackson, I think those people are always going to end up being who they were going to be. But I think that a mom being able to recognize that early and foster and like sort of give you the surroundings to improve and better like improve the chances of making that, like being successful in whatever that craft may be, is extremely important. I don't know though. That's a really tough question to like answer.
I think according to statistics, it's an exception in terms of you. It's not often seen, or it's not often seen in the sights of people that is not publicized. So those individuals that we do see, we can recognize it when we do see it. But according to statistics, that the great majority of single mothers that raise children end up, in the system. Whether it be in jail or have some type of life of unstableness. And so by those being in the forefront and being in the public eye, I think it stands out. And I think that it's, those mothers they should be commended, of course. And I don't think a lot of single parents are commended for the great job that they do with the individuals that they do, especially males, because that, and I've heard this 1,001 times from single parents, that it's hard, especially for them to raise young men and to be able to create that balance in them. It's virtually impossible for them to create that balance, but they give them what they have. And if they excel from that point, then they have to be commended for just the job that they done. Because as they get older, they eventually find their way, of course, because they're, latch on to whatever male role models that they can latch on to. But for the most part, the great majority of the single mothers that I've encountered always saying it's been a very difficult job to raise a male.
Yeah, it can go either way, because at the end of the day, for one, it depends on what success is subjective, right? So there's going to be some form of a deficit because we are meant to have a male and a female raising this child. Now, we know this, all kind of circumstances exist, from death. Some people are single parents not by choice, but just by, life happened and they're unable to, have a counterpart. But I think that it's really hard raising your children by yourself, because you have to make a decision. Okay, well, if I want to send my child to this private school, that means I'm going to have to work these extra hours to get this kind of a job, which means it's going to take some time away from my child. What if their love language is quality time? They're getting everything they need at school, but I can't be there for them, so there's going to be a deficit. So this may feel like an abandonment issue to this child. So they can be successful monetarily and everything else, but they may be a public failure. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, or a private failure, rather. You can be a public success, but a private failure. So there's going to be a deficit in one form or another. Even the most visually successful people will tell you, they may have mama issues, daddy issues, but I do agree in that single moms or fathers, parents specifically, don't get enough of the admonition, of the praise for what they do. But when something goes bad, I can speak personally, when something goes bad for that child, they get in trouble, then they'll get a lot of recognition for that. Oh, it's the single mom's fault. Where's the dad?
Correct. Yeah.
I think that, because I was raised by a single mother, and, it's hard to generalize it, because, I think that I was able to do things that I had a mindset that even people with two parents didn't have. You see what I'm saying? So I think that basically, your ability to prepare a child for crisis is the most important thing, right?
Yes.
So in other words, I was prepared to deal with falling, right? I think that both single parents and children with two parents do not allow their children to fall. And by doing that, they cripple them, because I know, I know personally kids that had both parents and they had problems. They really were not able to move, like I was, because they raised them for success. So in other words, as I always said, that my mother taught me how to win, but most importantly, she taught me how to take a loss.
Yeah.
Got it.
And most parents don't they're so into protecting them.
Yes.
And when I say, there are some things that parents should protect their kids from, but they don't teach them those issues about, they teach you how to get the bag. But, but what about when you lose it?
Yeah.
And then and no matter who raises you, if you aren't raised that way, you're going to have a problem in life at some point in time, because that's just life.
Yeah.
So I think that the mother who is able to, or father or parents who are able to raise you in a way in which they preparing you for how to fall, or how to get up after you fall.
Yeah.
That is the real solution, because some dads are that way. You know what I mean? Some dads, they are overprotective of their kids, and they don't know how to fall. Their kids, if they fall, they are, they still. So the most important thing is teaching them how to what to do when you get hit in the mouth. Like Mike Tyson said, everybody's got a plan until they get hit in the mouth.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem. I think with kids is that, and that's the issue. As soon as something happens, and being consistent, and there's so many values and so many things that that I think kids don't get nowadays, and it's worse because all we do is protect our kids.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? All we do is protect them. I remember that when I was a kid, and now I'm not co-signing everything that schools do, but when I was a kid, you couldn't get in trouble in school.
Right.
Right?
Right.
But now, it's different. So, it's like, it's really, because we know the schools have problems and teachers do things and they treat your kids such a way that we're defensive now, right?
Yeah.
So it's hard, right?
Yeah. But the kids run the classrooms now.
Y'all couldn't get in trouble in school?
Heck no.
No.
Heck
No,
no.
man, you get this dude.
No, because if you got,
Yeah,
'cause if you
I
got in
know.
trouble at school,
Yeah.
you get in trouble at home.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you. Okay.
Yeah.
You see, that's what I mean. So in other words, like if they call home and say, Zulu's acting up, then I got a problem.
Yeah.
I would say do anything you want to, because we paddle. You can
They
get paddled.
paddle,
in.
yeah.
Like you can paddle me, you can beat me up, you can do whatever you want to, but do not call my mother.
Yep. Because
Yeah.
you got double up coming.
Yeah.
You gonna get it at school. When I went down to Tennessee, man, they had the paddles with the holes in them.
Right.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't that wind would go straight through my holes, right?
Yep.
Man, look here. Granny got me. Look, I got tore up at school,
I was gonna
and
say
then
at
when
school.
I got home, I got tore up again. So I
Yep.
got double up. Oh no, you don't get in trouble at school. But going back to what you're saying about as far as like you have to teach them how to recover from failure, right? It reminds me of something. I don't know how true this is, but the guy told me. He said one of the first things that they teach you in the Army or the military is how to carry, in battlefield, is how to respond and carry a dead body or somebody
Yeah.
gets shot.
Yeah, I've heard
right?
that.
And I thought that was like, wow, why would they teach them that? Because they want them to be able to perform in a most traumatic state. When they suffer defeat or they feel they suffer defeat, how to keep moving when you down. And so to carry that body, you have to, you got to move. And I think about, even my kids, sometimes they come about and they know when dad pockets is short, but I let them know that, no, you got to keep going. No matter, even you still see me grinding. I don't care how short my pockets might be, you still got to grind, and I teach them that, that you have to learn how to recover whenever you're down. And I agree with
Yeah.
Zulu. That's one of the key things that you have to teach these kids nowadays. But nowadays, these kids feel like they're entitled to
Oh,
get
yeah.
any and everything without even the slightest bit of lifting a finger.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, one of the things that's crazy about, and I said, everybody's situation is different, because now that there is an argument that a woman can't raise a man. A woman is not equipped to raise a child how to be a man. That is, people feel that way. You know what I mean? And so, and a lot of people, they think that because of their circumstances.
Yeah.
Because they were raised by a single mother, and that's their experience. And I can see how that could be a problem.
I definitely.
I mean,
would
because
consider
I mean, and I think that there has to be an understanding that there is as a young man being raised, by a woman. I was not cuddled or babied. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, and I think my mother for that, the older that I got, I was not babied at all. So in other words, I told a story about when I used to do 2-a-day practices. And one day I came after I was doing 2-a-day practice, and I was actually in the bathtub, and I was talking to myself, and I was complaining. And my mother just kicked open the door and got on to me about complaining about 2-a-day practices. And she was tough.
Yeah.
She didn't bend, baby me, period, right? I knew my mother loved me, but I wasn't babied. Yeah. And the lessons that I was taught just prepared me in a way that she went out of her way to understand that there's a problem that she would have to deal with trying to raise me as a mother. I mean, just being a woman. So, and the same thing is like I played, football, basketball, and baseball. I played football all of my life and basketball most of my life, but baseball, I really didn't like it. And I remember I went and played baseball, and I wanted to quit. Well, I couldn't. I could not come home and say, all right, I'm on the team, Mom, I don't want to go back. I couldn't do that. You got to go to practice. You cannot quit anything you start.
Correct.
If you started playing, you cannot quit.
That's right.
But nowadays, you can quit, and they, dudes, you're in your feelings, and we want. I mean, all this like extra stuff, and let you find yourself. It wasn't like that.
Yeah.
It's like I'm hauling hay at 13 years old, right? Being a man, right? And so I think that in generally, I think that would be, to some degree, it could be a true statement, because if you are a man or a boy and you're being raised by a woman cannot raise you to be like her.
No.
You know what I'm saying? You just can't.
Correct.
There has to be a concerted effort to understand that I cannot raise you to be and see but it goes across the board, because sometimes a man can do that. A man can raise a boy in such a way that I know a lot of dudes, their kids are just like, they're tyrants, just absolute tyrants, because they've spoiled them so much. So I think that everyone has to be careful, because you're raising someone's father, you're raising someone's husband, you're raising someone's mentor. All of that is what you're doing.
Yeah.
And when we're doing that, it's just like, we don't want to be tough anymore. We talk about toxic masculinity, which is crazy.
Yeah.
If you got to hit them, you have to hit them in the chest every now and then.
Yeah. It reminds me. It also reminds me of, I know a couple of individuals that were raised by single mothers, right? And they used that. Their father not being there was a motivation. Yeah. Their mother raised them, but they knew from what they seen of others that they had to excel, that they had to live up and not be like their father was by being absent. So they took on that responsibility and became man. No matter where they had to find this type of knowledge from to merge or to grow into manhood, they found that. And they were able to treat their mothers well as being able to raise kids. And so because they just used that as a platform for them to excel in life, that, okay, my dad is not here in my life, but I'm not going to be like that.
Yeah.
I'm going to excel from this point on. And so the fact that the mother did raise them, they were able to understand that I'm not going to let moms, the way she raising me, I'm not going to let this, deter me from becoming a man.
You're talking about men who are raised by women?
Yeah, I'm saying
I
that
mean,
I know people that were raised by women, right? And their dad wasn't around. But by the fact that their dad wasn't around, they used that in order to excel. Say, I'm not going to be like my dad. I'm going to be around
Yeah.
for mine. I'm going to do
Yeah.
this. So they grow in, businesses, the whole works.
I think that's the thing that's absent is like, just because you're a dad don't mean you're going to be a good dad.
Right,
sure.
right.
For sure.
Because a lot of times, absentee fathers have more of an influence than if they were actually there. They don't want to even talk about that.
It's time already. Huh?
Dang.
You sure about that?
He taking you taking our minutes away.
Yeah. By the way, he said that he played. Joe said he was on the soccer team in 1985. They had 0 wins, and my parents let me quit in the middle of the season because they sucked.
It's fair.
That's fair.
They ain't want to watch all that. I understand.
All right. Wow. Anyway, thank you guys for tuning in for this edition of Justice Watch. We'll see you next week, same time, same place, same channel. And until that time, stay blessed.
With my girlfriend. That ain't right.
Get all the facts, all you need to know on KCAA Radio.